This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a couple of minutes, just waiting for folks to trickle in.
Madam Moderator, I have a question.
Yes, is that Don?
It is, how does one testify?
I will go over that in just a few minutes. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes.
Hey, Jessica, I'm showing up twice. I don't know why.
I have no idea, Jerry.
I figured you probably wouldn't, but I would. I've never seen it. The issue myself. I'm actually here on screen though. So the one that is.
Did you share the link with anyone? Because if you shared the link with someone, the one you had received in a confirmation, then it would show up.
Oh, okay, that's probably why. Okay.
Okay, hi Jess, hi Jerry.
Hi, everyone. We're going to get started in just a few minutes.
Awesome.
We're just got some folks still trickling in.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Don, I shared it with you. That's right. Okay.
Jessica, are you okay? Hear me? Okay.
Hi, Tom.
Hey,
Welcome.
how are you?
We're going to get started, everyone, in just a couple of minutes.
Okay, make sure everything's working. Oh, someone's dog.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started in just a couple minutes. So we have clear audio. Oh, sorry, hold on. Work from home joys. So that we have clear audio, we're going to ask that everyone mute themselves as they come in, just so that our interpreters have clear audio and so that everyone can hear each other. All right, I think we have the way. All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to RTAG's listening session. We're here to talk about accessibility of alternative service during diversions. So tonight's meeting is going to be like our previous listening sessions. We've invited the MBTA to talk with you all a little bit and give a brief presentation at the beginning. And then we're going to open it up to hear comments from everyone. Just like our previous listening sessions, the T will not be responding to every single comment, but we'll have a couple of minutes at the end to speak, and we'll be listening and taking all of your feedback. So without further ado, next slide. We're just going to go over some technical housekeeping. So we have 2 ASL interpreters tonight, Tom Lauterborn and Denise Martinez. In order to view their video, they'll be spotlighted throughout the entire meeting. So if you have your videos in speaker view, you should be able to see them. But you can also find their video in the gallery, and in the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click the ellipses and then click pin video, and that will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. Next slide. We have cart captioning tonight. Our cart captioner is Denise Gracia. To view closed captioning, please click the closed caption with the CC icon. One tip is that you can click and drag the closed captioning to move its positioning around in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, you click the upward arrow next to start and stop video, click video settings, then accessibility, and then you can move the slider to adjust your caption size. Next slide. Zoom directions. Please use the chat for any technical questions. If you have a technical question about Zoom or the features of the meeting, please ask those questions in the chat function. We have someone monitoring the chat who will be able to troubleshoot with you and get back to you. Next question, next slide. Oh, Rob, we lost the slides. Okay, so without further ado, first I'm going to go ahead and introduce Laura Brasford, Assistant General Manager for System-Wide Accessibility.
All right, Jessica, thank you so much. So,
Oh, Laura, hold on, we just got to spotlight you. Can everyone hear me?
oh, can hear you now. Yes, Jess.
I don't know what happened. Sorry, everyone. Laura, you are all set. Go ahead.
That's quite all right. Good evening, everybody. For those that don't know me, I am Laura Brasford, the Assistant General Manager of System-Wide Accessibility. Our Chief Operating Officer, Eric Studenoff, he's going to be joining us a little later in the meeting, and I will introduce him once he arrives. But in the meantime, I just wanted to provide a bit of background on diversions in general at the MBTA and some of the things we think about with respect to accessibility as we are planning and executing all sorts of service diversions. So Rob, if you would pull up the slides. All right, so just to give you a flavor of how frequently diversions occur here at the MBTA, take a look at the slide on the screen. We've got over a dozen diversions from the start of 2022 that really touch on almost all modes, all branches of our service, from the green line to the red line and everything in between. The vast majority of these diversions occur in order to address critical track and signal needs and ensure that the service remains in a state of good repair and safe to operate. But this is just a fraction of the diversions that have occurred here over the last 9 months. They are happening on a nearly a weekly basis. And often we'll have diversions for a weekend or two. As many folks know, we just included a 30-day diversion on the orange line. So they come in all sort of shapes and lengths. But nonetheless, there are a number of factors we think about consistently regardless of the location or the duration of a diversion. Next slide. So specific to accessibility, collectively throughout the agency, as we're planning for diversions, we try to think about a number of factors proactively. First and foremost, we are conscious of the accessibility of the shuttle buses. All of our contracts ensure that buses are fully compliant with the ADA, whether that means they are low floor ramp equipped or high floor lift equipped buses. They are all compliant with the ADA for contracts. But we do recognizing that low floor buses are a much more user-friendly experience for those of us who require accessible service, as well as for operators. We do work to incentivize the use of low floor buses whenever possible. We also take a close look at the accessibility of the shuttle bus stops, as well as the connecting paths of travel to the stops. When we are planning bus diversions, we are not always able to ensure that the bus is immediately outside of the subway station at which we are replacing service. So we have to be really mindful that the path of travel that folks may not be used to taking is accessible. We're also related to that, looking at the length of the walking distance between the closed stations and the shuttle bus stops, making sure that that is manageable for the riders who need to navigate that. Related to this issue, we also think about when during the diversion, if during the diversion, we also need to supplement the accessible buses with accessible vans. So we do this generally we do this when there's a couple different, in a couple of different scenarios. One, if we know we have a high percentage of high floor buses that riders may not prefer to use, we will often offer an accessible van as an alternative. And two, if there are portions of a diversion that requires a significant walking distance or crossing numerous traffic lanes, we will offer an accessible van as an option to riders. We also work to make sure that the bus operators providing the alternative service are fully trained, and all of the applications and best practices related to accessible service. And we work with our customer experience side team to make sure that we have not only clear wayfinding signage leading to the stops, but that we are positioning transit ambassadors and other staff along the diversion route and at the diversion stops to answer questions and provide assistance to folks as needed. And then we also try to spend a lot of time thinking about, all right, how are we going to let riders know about these diversions and what they should expect? And how do we do this in a way that the information is accessible to everyone? So typically, how do we get the information out both audibly and visually, in digital formats and in old-fashioned means, to make sure that we're not catching anyone by surprise. And finally, we really work to make sure that when we're posting information online about a stop, that we're providing very detailed narrative information about where the alternative service buses are located, that we're not assuming that people are familiar exactly with, they're not familiar with the graphics we're providing as to where to find the buses, that we're explaining that in plain language that anyone can use to find the alternative service stop. All right, next slide. And although we're here tonight really to hear from you about your experiences with diversions in general, whether it is a recent Green Line diversion or the 30-day Orange Line surge that just wrapped up, we do know that most folks are really thinking about that Orange Line diversion, and just want to take a second to acknowledge that this one was unprecedented and very, very unique. So unlike most diversions, in this case, the entire line was shut down. But in addition to that, a portion of the Green Line was shut down simultaneously. Not only was the actual scope of the diversion more significant than our typical shutdown, the length was unusual as well. This was 30 days straight through without typical Orange Line service. The other most notable unusual thing about this diversion is that due to the large number of buses required, we had to seek an exceptional number of resources from out of state. So our prime provider of shuttle services for this diversion was Yankee Line, who's a vendor we work with regularly and is frequently supporting our diversion work. But they simply did not have enough buses within their own fleet. So they had to subcontract with over 45 other bus providers throughout the country. So we had a huge number of buses coming up from all parts of the East Coast to provide service here. And then one other thing that was slightly unusual, but ended up being a big asset for us, was we also brought on 20 accessible vans to supplement the accessible bus fleet. So if riders preferred to take a van or had an issue with the buses, the vans were there to help get them where they needed to go. All right, so next slide, Rob. So we are here tonight, really, as Jessica said, to listen and learn about your experiences. As we're coming out of this Orange Line diversion, we're having a number of conversations about updating policies and protocols. And when it comes to the accessibility considerations, your feedback is going to help us make a lot of recommendations for what needs to get updated. So although we want to hear whatever you want to share this evening, some of the things we're particularly interested in hearing about is your experience with how we're doing in terms of notifying riders and sharing information about diversions with you. How we're doing in terms of the accessibility of the bus stops themselves, as well as the path of travel to the bus stops. Is the signage we are providing clear and helpful? And what's your experience been with staff at shuttle stops? In general, really interested to hear what your experience has been like boarding and exiting the buses, whether that's a low floor bus or a coach style high floor bus. If you had an opportunity to use one of the supplemental accessible vans, what was that experience like? And for those that really rely on stop announcements as they are traveling, how are we doing in that respect? And of course, we're definitely interested in understanding what's your interaction been like with the bus operators. And finally, if you've had the occasion to need assistance from anyone while on one of these diversions, and you've made a request like that, what's been the response you've gotten, positive or negative? All right, and with that, I believe Eric is having some technical difficulties.
Eric
Laura-
is on.
Laura, I am here. I was able to join. Sorry for being a little late. I had trouble with the link joining in.
No problem. So yeah, I just mentioned that I would be introducing you. I want to introduce Eric Studenoff, who's been recently appointed to the role of Chief Operating Officer, who was asked to say a few words tonight before we sit back and listen. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks, everybody. Yes, my name is Eric Studenoff. I've been with the T for just shy of 10 years at this point. I've been working mostly in the engineering field. Most recently, my position within the agency was as chief engineer. But in late August, I was appointed to be acting chief operating officer for the agency, which effectively means the rapid transit network. So the bus service and the fixed route rail service falls under my leadership. I do not have, but partner closely with our partners at the Ride and at the commuter rail. But my role is with folks that I know you know very well, Dave Carney and Karen Burns and Andrea Gordon and Pat Richmond that lead the red line, the orange line, the green line, silver, blue line, and our bus service. So that is the role that I assumed in middle of August. And as I heard Laura mentioning, really here to listen to the feedback that all of you have for us on how we are managing our diversions. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the FTA has come to Boston and has started a process that they call the safety management inspection. And so that they have issued us a final report and a series of findings. And it's consistent with, I think, what probably a lot of you experience around our system when we're not on diversion, with just some of the deteriorated condition of our infrastructure. And we are working very hard to correct some of those things. But in terms of some of the most effective ways for us to make those changes go forward, it does mean that we need to halt some of our service and go on to diversion, and usually that's via bus. And I want to hear how we can do that better. I've been working closely with Laura and Chris and Rob and the rest of the system-wide accessibility team through my entire time here, and want to make sure that I continue that in my new role, functioning as the head of transit operations for the MBTA. The diversion process is a necessary process for how we go about doing work in an effective way so that we can really address the backlog of maintenance and reliability and constructability for fixing our infrastructure. And at the same time, we know that we need to do better with that alternative service. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today and hear your feedback.
Hello?
Laura, I think Jessica is trying to speak right now, but I don't know that we can.
Okay, can you hear me?
1 second, Jeffrey. Jessica's just having some technical difficulties she's sorting out.
Okay, so you can hear me now. Okay.
Hold-
Eric,
hold- Jeffrey, hang on 1 second. Jessica's just getting
okay.
some.
Hi, Laura.
How are you?
Fine.
Is my audio working now?
Yes,
We can hear
I
you now.
have no idea what is happening. I've never had this happen so many times in a meeting or at all. So, all right, well, onwards we go. Sorry, everyone. Thank you so much, Eric, for coming, and Laura, thank you for giving that comprehensive overview. And thank both you and all of the MBTA staff tonight who are here listening. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up our public comment session. Once again, just going over some housekeeping. We're gonna, in order to have clear audio for our interpreters, we're gonna utilize the hand raise feature. And where I'm also going to be spotlighting folks as they speak for accessibility purposes. So if you'd like to share your feedback to indicate that you have a comment, please use the raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator, me, will then prompt you to unmute and then speak. And we'll be calling on folks in the order that you raise your hands. So once again, you click the reactions button, raise hand. If you're on the phone, you can dial *9. And another fun shortcut is just hitting Alt-Y, and that will raise your hand. So I'm going to go ahead and start calling on folks. We have a ton of people who are ready. First up, Jeffrey.
Hello,
Hi, there you go, Jeffrey.
is Eric still there?
He's still, they're both still here listening. Just a reminder that folks will not be responding to all of the comments, but they're going to be listening, and we have folks documenting them.
Okay, because I don't see Eric's picture up there.
I remove spotlights for everyone who's not speaking for
Oh,
accessibility.
okay. So this question is for Eric. Hello, Eric. Since the MBTA consists of many different lines, silver, green, silver, blue, etc., why do you think that the orange line has so many issues, yet the blue line, the silver line, the green line does not? Is that just a coincidence, or has the orange line been neglected for years and the others haven't? Can you explain that?
Sorry, just a reminder, folks, we invited the T here to listen to comments. So unless Eric is comfortable answering that question, folks, the T official answering questions. We'll just be taking comments tonight.
It's up to him.
Jessica, why don't we do this? Why don't we start with anyone who has a comment they would like to share on diversions? And then with time remaining, we can field questions about general issues.
Excellent, that sounds great. Thanks, Laura. All right, Jeffrey, so we'll come back to that, okay?
Okay.
Jess, I think we lost your audio again.
No, I'm here.
I think I'm up. I think I'm up next. Actually,
Hang on 1 second, Tom. Let's see if she can.
I'll let Jeffrey go, and then okay.
Tell you what, Laura, I'll answer Jeffrey's question. I know we're trying to go follow your process, but while Jessica is working on her audio. So Jeffrey, from my perspective, the orange line doesn't have a dramatically different quantity of issues versus any of the other lines, green, red, or blue. There were specific and discrete and long-standing challenges with the orange line that the MBTA had been working with, that were identified when the FTA came and visited us. And then there was a series of other reasons and investments within the orange line that led us to this 30-day unprecedented diversion of service, so that we could address an accumulation of needs on the orange line that all came to a head at the exact same time during during the latter half of August and September.
Thanks, Eric. I apologize everyone for my audio issues. I've never had this happen, so I'm not entirely certain what is going on. But go ahead, Tom.
Actually, this is just one quick question, and then I'll ask again at the end of the others, because this isn't directly related. But Eric, I was just wondering if Jeff Gonville was still with us, because I had brought up some important things with Jeff earlier in the year in regards to stop announcements when making right and left doors within the departing announcements instead of the arriving announcements. I don't know if Jeff went over that with you or not, but is he still with us, or what's going on? I was just wondering.
So Jeff Gonville is still at the MBTA. He is still the deputy general manager. He is still in charge of all of operations for the MBTA. And so I report to Jeff, and as well as the executive director of commuter rail and the executive director of the ride. And so he is still in charge of all of operations, but this is really my position was a position that was held by Jeff Gonville several 5-6 years ago, and most recently held by a gentleman named Todd Johnson, but it has been vacant for the last 2 years or so, and really just over the last couple of months, as we've been going through the safety inspection with the FTA, it became abundantly clear that it needed to be permanently filled, and I'm lucky enough to be that person. But Jeff Gonville is still here, and he and I talk every day about the operations of the rapid transit network, bus and light rail and heavy rail. But he also has commuter rail and the ride under his purview as well.
Okay, so nothing major has changed or anything. It's still it's just under him now.
Thanks, Tom. Did you have a question on the diversions?
I guess the general question is it what's gonna, I guess if the diversions are going to be similar to on the green and red line, because an important thing that Jeffrey had brought up earlier, like what makes the other lines, why they close the orange line down for a month but not for the other lines. But I wanted to comment what's going to happen with the red line, because you have so many. I hope nobody's forgotten, but we still got some cars that go back to 1969 on that line that really need a lot of updating and need some real need of updating. And I was just wondering how much of the red line is going to be shut down by diversions in the future. That would be similar to the similar or not similar to the orange line.
So I don't envision. And the general manager has said this, and Jeff has said this as well. We don't envision often going back to the well the way we did with the orange line, where we shut the entire line down. We don't envision any of those circumstances again. With the blue line and the long tunnel underneath the harbor. And there will be segments where we need to do weekend diversions and maybe week-long diversions like we're doing on the green line right now, as we feel it's manageable and can deliver the level of service that we strive to deliver in the diversion scenario. We are going to continue to try to do that, but we will attempt to avoid such massive and dramatic shutdowns as we had with the orange line. I think the orange line was really the culmination of many factors coming together all at the same time, where we as an agency felt that it was in our best interest and the public's best interest to tackle this the way we did, and really had limited options available to us at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, we're going to go ahead and open it up for any questions on diversions. And Laura, do you maybe want to put up that prompt? Can we put up that prompt of some of the topics that you're most interested in hearing feedback of, that slide? Rob,
Sure. So Rob, if you wouldn't mind pulling that up again. Again, right now, we really just want to hear from you about your experiences.
Yep.
If there are questions at the end, we can talk through those, but we really want to hear how did this all go for you?
Great, thank you. Jerry, you had your hand up next.
Great, thank you, and thank you for this opportunity to share my feedback, and thank you to the MBTA staff who are here to listen to us and have already answered questions. I appreciate that. I will just reiterate what I've shared with some folks at the T already, and colleagues and friends and whatnot. I will reiterate that I personally live on the Orange Line, so I haven't used service on the Green Line during a Green Line diversion. But my experience with the Orange Line diversion was horrible. I'm lucky enough to be able to work full time from home. So therefore I don't need to commute that often, and I'm thankful for that, because if I had to commute regularly into my job near my physical job location near North Station during the diversion, I probably wouldn't have been able to get to my job in a efficient or timely manner. I commuted 3 times during the diversion, and each time was progressively worse. Actually, my first time commuting during the shutdown was on August 25th, the first week during the shutdown, a Thursday morning, and I took my bus line 34 to Forest Hills. That was no problem at all. When I got to Forest Hills, there was no staff actually to direct me to where the shuttle buses would be. But luckily, I had watched the news the night before, so I knew where to, or on that Monday, so I knew where to get them anyway. So I went down to the lower busway where the shuttle buses were parked, and I felt like I was transported back to the early and mid '90s, before the settlement agreement was reached between BCIL, the plaintiffs group, and the T, because at that time, because when I got to where the shuttle buses were parked, I saw a Yankee staff person there, and I said, I'd like to use a shuttle bus I'd like to go to Copley. He immediately went to use his walkie-talkie and was going to call a accessible van. And I said, no, I don't want to use an accessible van. I want to commute just like anyone else. I want to use one of the shuttle buses. So he's like, okay, but we have to let several of the buses clear. It's crowded right now. So about 4 or 5 buses went on their way before he even thought about loading me onto a bus. When he finally did direct me to where a bus was that he thought that I could get on, I had very little clearance to get on the lift. In fact, I almost couldn't get on the lift due to not being able to no turning radius, lack of turning radius. But I was able to maneuver fine. When I got on the lift worked, thankfully, because I was scared about that. Because like I said, back in the days before the settlement agreement, not only would buses go by and not pick up wheelchair users like myself, but frequently the lifts did not work. Disabled advocates has worked for many, many years to get as many low floor buses and to get as many lifts working as possible. So I was happy that the lift actually worked. But however, when I got into the bus driver, lo and behold, oh, I don't have any tie downs. He had to get out of the bus and look for tie downs. He finally found one tie down, and he used one tie down to tie me down. Another thing about the coach buses, not only, again, is it high floor and you run the risk of a lift not working, but there's very little room to move once you're in the van. There's only space for one chair, at least in the bus that I was, and it was very, very cramped. People could not easily make their way past my chair at all during the entire trip to either load or unload. So that experience was a very, very poor one. Then my next experience was over Labor Day weekend. I attended a Red Sox game with my family, and I decided to walk from Fenway to Ruggles. And I thought to myself, well, I didn't have a great experience on the bus. Let me try one of these accessible vans. Since Yankee wants to steer you to an accessible van, maybe that experience is better. So I get to Ruggles. I see a Yankee staff person, and I said, I wouldn't mind using one of those accessible vans. So I wait there for a minute. And then she's like, oh, you have to go to a different location. They're on Tremont Street. I'm not familiar with that location. I don't use Ruggles regularly. When I do go to Ruggles, I've used the subway. So I said, I'm not sure where that is. Luckily, a transit ambassador was there, and she walked me to the nearest elevator to the Tremont Street side of the stop. And she said, "Oh, once you get down, walk along the path, and you'll find it." But I'm still not, again, I'm not that familiar with that station, so I would have appreciated if she had walked with me, and if she gave me the opportunity to ask, I would have asked her to walk with me. But she walked away quickly, and by the time the elevator came, she was gone. And I didn't get a chance to ask her to assist me further with wayfinding. I finally did find Tremont Street location, but then it took several more minutes for the accessible van to arrive. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised that it was actually the same sort of minivan that's used for the Ride Flex program, accessible wave, Ubers and Lyfts. So I knew that I'd be able to fit. Although I thought to myself, if I was one of my friends who has a bigger chair or who's taller than I am, I'm only about 5 feet, they wouldn't be able to fit in one of those vans. And again, those type of vehicles only accommodate one wheelchair. If I was with a friend, a colleague, a caregiver who used a chair, whatever, I wouldn't be able to travel with them. So I don't know what would have occurred in that instance. Once I got on the van, he didn't tie me down. He again used only one tie down, not all four, as is required. I didn't call him on it, but I did file a service concern with the T on that. And he took a very circuitous route to get to Forest Hills. That was my desired drop off location. He was just using the GPS or whatever, and he wasn't familiar with the area. I asked him, I said, by the way, where are you guys from? And he's like, we're from Rhode Island. I'm from Providence. So again, that wasn't a pleasant experience either. Not only was I felt a little unsafe because of the tie down issue, but again, he wasn't familiar with the issue, and it caused me to be delayed into where I was going. Not only did I have to wait for the van to arrive, but then I had trouble getting to my final destination. Then the third instance was on September 12th, which was actually captured by WGBH. They actually did a ride along with me. So if you go to their website, you can probably pull up the story. And we didn't make up any of the negative experience that I had on September 12th, but it was the worst of the three trips. And that trip occurred in the evening, about 5:30 in the evening. I started my commute to meet my girlfriend at Back Bay Station. To go to dinner. And again, when I get to Forest Hills, the first I asked the Yankee personnel. I said I'd like to take a shuttle bus to go to Back Bay. That woman I thought it was going to go better because that woman did not direct me to, let me call an accessible shuttle bus, accessible van for you. I said, can I get on one of these buses? And she's like, yes, certainly you can. So I go to the first bus I'm directed to. Lo and behold, the lift didn't accommodate my chair. And I don't have a large chair. I've been told that my chair, actually by my wheelchair company who services my chair, that my chair is actually pretty small. So I was very, very shocked that I couldn't get on the lift. And I'm very shocked that the T would allow buses on their fleet that don't have ADA compliant lifts. So anyway, I go on a second bus, and that lift worked. But when I got into the seating area, there wasn't room for me to turn around. I had to stay perpendicular to where the door was. And in fact, when the driver shut the door after deploying the lift, it hit my feet, so I could have been injured. So that was a very, very unpleasant trip to Back Bay Station. The wayfinding was fine. He called the stop announcements, but again, that trip he only tied down my chair. He used 2 tie downs that time, but again, I couldn't move. I couldn't maneuver, sit comfortably in the vehicle at all. It was a very, very unpleasant experience. And if any non-disabled person had to sit like that, or had any of these experiences that I did, they wouldn't want to use the Orange Line again, or they wouldn't want to commute during the diversions. This is unacceptable, the service that I experienced, and I'm only one story. I'm only the first story that you're hearing of. I'm sure you'll hear other stories tonight too. This is unacceptable service. And because we are disabled people are marginalized, I think we were thought of as an afterthought with this particular diversion. I can't believe, because I know Laura and her staff and the T are working very hard to provide more accessible service, but in this case with the Orange Line, it definitely seemed like we were an afterthought, and accessibility was not at the forefront of your minds when you plan. I would hope for any future diversions that you give SWA, you give them more of a chance to check out the buses that you get either from different parts of the country or wherever. You make sure that they can try out these buses, they can try out the seating locations, And again, if you have lifts that don't work, or more, as importantly, if you can't maneuver properly in the bus when the lift does deploy you in the bus, that's not deemed acceptable either, because it was basically like I was a package, and people with disabilities are not packages. We are persons, we are commuters. We deserve to be able to commute in any way that we see fit. If we want to use an accessible van, we'll use an accessible van, but we don't want to have to do that. We want to be able to get on whatever shuttle bus that we can. We want to be able to get, we don't want to have to, keep filing complaints or protesting or whatever. We just want to commute just like our non-disabled peers. And until we can do that, it's like all our advocacy for all these years has gone for naught. I really, really hope that the powers that be at the T take this issue seriously. And if you, for future diversions, I really hope that you either hold Yankees' feet to the fire or consider using other companies, because from my experience, this whole experience was awful. It was awful, and we shouldn't stand for it. We really shouldn't.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Next, I'm going to go ahead and call on Don Summerfield.
Hello, I'm gonna have to take my video off because of a format issue.
Okay. Go ahead, Don, though, and if you have a comment.
Well, I do have a comment. It's going to lead to comments on the Orange Line diversion, but in Don Summerfield style, allow me a minute to get to that.
Okay.
My name is Don Summerfield, and I don't feel safe riding the MBTA. It's a broken system. Band-aids have been put on when structures should have been replaced years ago. I noticed this years ago, riding through crumbling tunnels, etc. Finally, the T is getting their act together a little too late, and the Orange Line had only to be worked on after the feds gave them a lousy report card. I noticed years ago that in crumbling tunnels, work needed to be done. I addressed this to someone at the T. Actually, this person at the T is at this session now. The orange and green line diversions worked sometimes, and if you had a disability needed accommodation, it was pretty lousy. It worked sometimes for me, other times it worked lousy. Mr. Boyd, as you know, I was in that same article that WGBH did, although my comment was, I'm very pissed. I won't use that language now, but I was quite angry at the Orange Line and green line diversions. It works sometimes, sometimes not. Not all of the, Ms. Brasford, not all the lifts that Yankee uses are ADA compliant. Most are, but that doesn't really matter now. Sometimes I use my wheelchair, other times I walked. It works sometimes, sometimes not. I had employees tell me, well, I'm not trained on the lift yet. Well, is that my problem? Yes. Is it the MBTA's problem? More so. It's a broken system. The diversions really were quite horrible. All in all, I give a mark of a D- for accessibility. And I agree with you, Mr. Boyd, we are not packages. And to follow up, as far as accessibility goes, during the monitors meeting of the MBTA, I asked Ms. Brasford about why the targets weren't always all changed for the new accessible fare gates. I got a response from Mr. Sampson in so many words. that the legacy targets weren't available, weren't ready. Well, I was really irritated, filed a complaint through the heat system, got an entirely different response that said in so many words, it was decided because most riders had the media that would work. We decided not to change them yet. Well, that was a really ridiculous, may I say, cockamamie excuse, which is Gaelic, it's not a swear word. So I contacted an attorney for Greater Boston Legal Services, Taramati Doucette, who contacted the judge, et cetera, and Laura and Rob, et cetera. Finally, we got a response from Laura Brasford. They would be changed. They were changed for the most part. There's still one remaining station. I won't tell you where, and that they have been changed. Why did that have to go to the Greater Boston Legal Services? And now you're up.
Thank you for your comment, Don. Next, Colleen Flanagan.
Hi,
Hey,
thank
Colleen,
you.
just give me 1 second to spotlight you. All right, you're all set. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for hosting this listening session. Thanks for the MBTA for asking us these 8 items and for keeping the slide up so I can try to stay focused because I work full time, which is an absolute privilege as a person who depends on a wheelchair full time. I commute from Green Street to Haymarket. Oh, that was my commute before the diversion. When the diversion began, my commute was multiplied exponentially. Because of some of the issues that have already been raised, I got to work considerably late, which is unacceptable. At least 11 regular coach buses downright denied me service in front of everybody on my commute for reasons that included the sidewalk wasn't level, there was no lift, the bus was too full, I'm supposed to be on the van. That was a very common one. And sometimes the Rycon lifts that were on the coach buses had an extender and people were absolutely trained, but in real time, when you're dealing with narrow sidewalks and different things, and the pressure of trying to keep, buses going every 60 seconds, sometimes the extender on the Rycon lift did not get extended. So like Mr. Boyd mentioned, I have a small power chair, but I was almost injured because the lift was not operated correctly. I'm also a very strong self-advocate and reminded people that there was an extender on the Rycon lifts because the accessible vans were not always available. And I have responsibilities as an adult and as somebody who's trying to keep a job. So sometimes I really did have to get on those shuttle buses. And I did sometimes get on the bus, but in all 30 days, it was never on the first try, not once. And that's upsetting. Another thing that was very difficult as just somebody commuting using the system was there was a lot of confusion over, it was my preference where the shuttle buses, the accessible vans, where the accessible vans picked me up. And I thought it was about accommodations, not preferences, because how am I going to prefer where the accessible van picks me up? I don't know every corner of the sidewalk and different things. This was especially confusing in Copley Square. In case this happens again, Copley Square was very confusing with this. Yeah, I appreciate the MBTA taking notes. I have all of the bus numbers and times and different things that this happened, but what I really hope you take note for is that people with disabilities have to plan every second to be able to fit into a system that doesn't work for us. And the way that the Orange Line diversion went down, you made it very, very difficult for us to plan accordingly so that we could meet our responsibilities like we should be able to using public transit. So that's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Colleen. And if you haven't already, if you could send in to the T the specifics so that SWA can investigate it. I think, that's really, really important that they have that information.
I definitely will.
Thank you. Murshid.
Is that Rashad?
Hello?
Hi, Murshid.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, just give me 1 second to spotlight you. All right, you're up.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Most of the experiences I prepared to say have been already said. I'm only going just to maybe to re-emphasize. One thing I want to that I took notice of is about the media campaign, when always the T maybe is closed down, or maybe when the orange line was closed. You find that people with disabilities or commuters with disabilities were the most affected. But in most cases, when you're drawing like a media campaign over something, like you're trying to maybe to mobilize the people and how to use the T, the orange line, for example, you can find that media that is that drew attention towards people with disabilities to tell them what was supposed to be done and how was supposed to be done was lacking. For example, it took me like almost like a week to know that there was a handicapped accessible van that would help me commute from assembly up to the government center. And another problem we had, that now the van was dropping you strictly at the government center, as opposed to our earlier like a stopover, which, for example, I used to get on the orange line from assembly, and it was supposed to drop me at downtown crossing. That means that I was only going to push my wheelchair for only 5 minutes or less, and I'll be at my office at Boston Center for Independent Living. So there was an extra distance, and that distance was a problem. Because like it was all random, that the train will stop at the government center, but there are some stages that were not catered for, and even when you use the van would not drop you at a place that you've been always going to. And another challenge we encountered during the time, times like when we were using the T, is about the bridge plate. And then now the bridge plate is also becoming my other name. Every time you get on the T, you get at a certain point with the bridge plate, you reach another point where you are getting off, there is no bridge plate. At times when you wake up early in the morning, you want to go to work, you reach at the station. For example, myself, the station is almost like a next door to me. But at times I reach there, I want to go to work like in time, there is no bridge plate. Back and last on the issue of the experience we had with the buses, those buses were a very high risk. For example, the bus was far away high.
You need 5 people, Ben.
Sorry, everyone. Can everyone take a minute to mute yourselves?
How are you going to get 5 people?
Oh, it's 5 people.
I told you.
Hello?
Go ahead. Sorry.
This is gonna be my last, to give other people a chance. My experience with the former presenters highlighted. One time I also wanted to use the bus, and the transit ambassador was willing to help me to get on the bus, but the driver never wanted me to use the bus. He kept on saying that you should wait for the van. and the van was not even available. I had taken another passenger. I told him that I want to use the bus and have the experience of the bus because it was even raining. I had no shelter to wait for the van. So eventually I get on the van, but it takes almost like 20 minutes to get me onto the bus. And like former presenters put it, when I reached the bus, there was no hooks to hook me up. I offered to get off the bus and my wheelchair and sit on the chair. But when the driver was upon reaching government center, when the driver was supposed to now disembark me, he only opened the door and almost my wheelchair almost fell down. I kept on telling him, wait until when I transfer to the wheelchair. And to make matters worse, at one time almost opened the door when I was on the chair and I almost fell all the way down. So if at all, those are some of the cautionary measures that I saw as an experience. That's what I have to share with you. And one good thing is like the van somehow worked for me when I got to learn about it. It somehow worked for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Murshid.
Jessica, if I could just jump in for 1 second, I just want to.
Or Laura, just let me spotlight you. Go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. I just want to say, I know I speak for my team and for my colleagues here that this is really hard for us to sit and just listen and not jump in and respond and apologize. But just want to thank everybody for sharing these stories. This is definitely not the service we are committed to providing, and I know it's probably not your choice of a way to spend your Thursday evening is sharing these stories. So just wanted to jump in and say thank you that this is going to help us make decisions going forward. So really appreciate it.
Thanks, Laura. And thanks to all of you for coming and listening. And thank you for everyone sharing their stories. We still have a few hands raised. So next I'm going to go ahead and call on Susan Backstrom. Susan, just give me 1 second to spotlight you. All right, Susan, you're all set.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say about what Jerry and Rashid and Colleen went through. That's really rough. Yeah, I wasn't. Mine wasn't as much about the buses and the equipment. Although the bus, usually getting in and out of even a green line where you got a couple steps, I can do that. But and recently I've been trying to walk downstairs just because. The climb up to the coach buses was always challenging, and even with the cane, I didn't feel like I could really legit ask for like a lift or whatever, because that's extra time and stuff. And the trouble is that when these diversions happened on the Orange Line, I tried to make it work. I tried to get to work on time and stuff. I usually would 116 to 111 to Orange Line into North Station and or Haymarket, and then Orange Line from North Station or Haymarket to Downtown Crossing, and then it's just like I would get off right there, and like just the stairs are right there. It's just so easy to get off right there. And the timing was excellent on those situations, but the the timing just got all jacked up, and I was running late lots of times, and so I ended up like having to switch my whole commuter schedule. Like I tried to use the same ones that I was using before, but I ended up using the blue line and then the green line, and then, you know, having a little bit further to walk. But I was just like, I had to make something had to work for the timing so that I would be able to make it to work on time. And yeah, that was the only way that it would work. And then the other thing that was challenging was that when they said that the green line was going offline, I was like, I ended up having to use the ride, because I was like, there was no way I was going to miss going to work. But yeah, I was just like, I didn't, the way it was described to me, I just couldn't see how it would all fit together. But now, you know, the conversations that happened before before the thing went, you know, before the diversion happened, there was a lot of conversations, but there was also a lot of conversations about, you know, the bus line, the better bus line thing, and like that was where they would show up at the T stops at like the Haymarket, or even at, you know, Bellingham Square, and they give your teammates would give away these folders with all this information, and like that's kind of what, you know, what I was expecting for like a you know, when you got a diversion and it's going to be quite a while and you're going to have a lot of people affected and it's going to go like more than a week or whatever, more than, you know, even a couple of days, it should actually, you know, it was really effective to have your team out with the brochures and stuff. And I just think that would be a really good idea to maybe do that, send the team out and like have them try and touch base with as many people as possible face to face, because like that was a lot easier to understand, even though some of it was online and stuff. But like the reality of it was that it would have been better to be interacted with face to face at that point because of the confusion. And I really appreciate what you guys accomplished. You know, I hope that there aren't any further breakdowns. But when the minute the orange line opened up again, I just jumped up back onto the orange line, thinking that here we go, we can go back to the way it was. But then I sat there for like 2 hours, like there was a door problem on the train. I was like, oh no. So there it was again. I was like, oh dear. So anyway, I was pretty grumpy about that. But you know, I guess that just comes from living in a city too. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks. Thanks. It was good to see you, Jessica. Thanks, Laura. And
thank you, Susan. Good to see you as well. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for your comments. Next up, Jennifer Smith Workman. And Jennifer is joining us not on video today, so.
No.
No. So I can't spotlight you.
Okay. Oh gosh, I don't know how to do that.
That's okay. That's all right. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Jennifer Smith Workman, and I just have a comment. In regards to the ambassadors, my experience when the shutdown on the Orange Line pretty much first started, I says, well, let me try and see what it was like. Actually, I took Uber to the Haymarket station, but coming back, I like I mentioned before with you guys, the ambassador, I asked her, where are the buses to go back to Ruggles? She pointed to across the street over on the other side of Government Center. Like I was supposed to go up the stairs and go across all of Government Center. But my thing was, she was not actually observant. And I would like them to have more observant ambassadors, because my cane is not invisible. You can clearly see I'm with a cane. So we need to have more training with the ambassadors on their observation. Now, on the shuttle bus, the ride was not bad, but the driver did not buckle me in, and I could not buckle myself. And I had to ask him before he was literally taking off. I says, no, can you stop and buckle me in? So I think they really need to have a little more training, even with the shuttle bus drivers in the future and or going on with any shuttle buses. Because the shuttle bus driver says they had like literally an hour's worth of training, which is unacceptable. But clearly seatbelts are mandatory in Massachusetts. So there should be a little more mindful training on with these shuttle bus drivers on safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and call on Diana Hu, and I've already spotlighted you, so you're all set, Diana.
Thank you, Jessica. And just really want to thank everybody for holding this event and really listening to our feedback. And yeah, some really difficult stories of what's happened during these diversions. And I'm just going to add my own story as well. My personal care attendant and I, on the second day of the Green Line closure on August 23rd, headed out to the Leechmere station. And as soon as we got there, we were told that the coach buses were not accessible, or rather, my PCA was told that the coach buses were not accessible. That my presence was sort of ignored there. And then the staff member said, okay, we're going to have to call for a low floor bus. I asked the staff member, okay, what might be a time estimate for this bus to arrive? And then the staff member responded to my PCA instead of me about calling again to ask and checking in on the wait time. So I feel like there are two sort of takeaways from this experience. One is that I think more accessibility training for the staff members would be very helpful for future diversions, both from an understanding point of view that these coach buses are indeed accessible, and also an empathy sort of point of view and a respect point of view that that members should really speak with people with disabilities when asking a question. So I feel like those are some good takeaways for future diversions if possible. The signage getting to the shuttle buses, that was very clear. Also, when I filed a complaint about this incident, SWA was extremely responsive, extremely helpful, and did an investigation. So I really want to applaud the action there, and just want to call out opportunities for training and empathy for future diversions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. I think you summed up quite a few takeaways very nicely. I think I see one more hand, Rachel. And then I'd also really curious, one thing that is on this list that we haven't heard much about is stop announcements. So if there's anyone here who's had any experiences with stop announcements, I think we'd be really curious to hear from you as well. Rachel?
Hi, I'm not technically supposed to be here in my work persona, but here we are. And I just want to, and I
We
really
won't
try to
tell
keep this
anyone,
short.
Rachel, don't worry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, but in all seriousness, first of all, I am by no means saying that anybody handled their situation wrong in any way when they experienced these, frankly, horrible situations. So this is not a criticism in any way, and I can only speak for the city where I work. But if this stuff happens to you and for example, I realize that for sure if it happens to you at Leechmere Station, which is in Cambridge, but if you need me, if you are a Cambridge person, because I can't tell other cities what to do, and you need me to jump up and down and act like a Jack Russell Terrier, if I know about this stuff, I will make noise about it. Laura knows I will make noise about it because she gets an email and then, if there is something I can do to help somebody who's in any kind of area that I have any say over whatsoever. Okay, I never have say over things, but that I can make noise about whatsoever. I'm happy to help. Colleen, I know you know where to go in Boston and you're all set. I bet most of you know where to go in your towns if these things are happening in your towns and cities. And I know that different cities work differently and that you get different responses. So I'm not completely naive to that. But anything that we can do to help, I can't tell the T what to do. Anybody from the T is going to tell you that I can't tell them what to do. But, I can make some noise. So if there is anything that I can do to help anybody who would normally be going to me about any of this stuff, and you need me to because I know that when you file a complaint, it doesn't necessarily go straight to Laura or whatever, but if there's something that happens in in Cambridge or something like that, I just want to offer myself up as a resource there. Like I said, I know different cities work differently. I have no problem with the way anybody handled their situation, and it's not for me to criticize anyway. I just want to offer myself as a resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I think that is a good, I know we have a few more hands to call on, but Laura, is there an email or what is the email and phone number that folks can also call to make sure that SWA is hearing directly for some of these issues?
So we have a pretty good system internally that if the issue is related to accessibility, or if the individual filing a complaint identifies themselves as having a disability, the complaint will automatically come over to my department and we will do a co-investigation with the respective area. So folks should feel comfortable calling our main complaint line, which, and I apologize for not having a slide for this, it's 222-3200, or going to our website at mbta.com. And there's a common form that anyone can fill out there as well.
Thanks, Laura. All right, so we've got a few more hands. Elizabeth Dienklauer.
Yes, thank you again for this opportunity for the listening session. I did not try to participate this evening. I was not in a situation where I was using Boston transportation of any kind, and including the diversion. So I greatly appreciate the people who not only shared their stories, but some of whom I know made a point of trying it out in a situation where they might have even been able to use some people had no other option. Some people, I think, wanted to make sure for themselves and for other people it was workable. And we certainly have heard what those shortcomings are. Again, just to reiterate, I think this audience is well aware, but for people with wheelchairs, if they can't be tied down at 4 points, it really, that's not sufficient being adequately secured, and in fact actually could send someone sharply in only one direction. So I know, I'm well aware from other contexts, other situations involving say Uber and Lyft vehicles or the ride, that if there are situations or in the past history of the ride that it doesn't really matter what policies are on the books, in the contracts, that when there are multiple instances of where this just wasn't happening time and again, and on different types of, in different people, different locations, even different transportation vendors. So thank you very much for this listening session, and hopefully I know that was just the there was almost no turnaround time before this particular diversion started, and because of the massive safety issues to the general public. But certainly, as you've heard, spoken very well this evening, that for people with disabilities, we absolutely need to be factored in, and those we represent. And lastly, I'd say to Diana Hughes' point about someone not addressing the person, in addition to respect or empathy, that again I view as part of training, or even if it's unintended prejudice, to make assumptions that because someone has one difference, or in how they get around, or physical disability, that necessarily means that they're not comprehending what you're saying, or has a language issue, or any other aspect. So I do hope in all these ways that this experience will improve future times when the T has to be worked on.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Rashad? Rashad, are you there? You're on mute. Rashad?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Great.
Okay. My experience was with the shuttle van. I went to a doctor appointment at Tufts Medical Center, and I was told that there's a van across the street at the station, usually to take people to South Station. I went downstairs and I talked to somebody who worked at the T, was standing outside the station, and he took me into this white handicap van. I told them that I'm going to take the commuter rail and I need a ride to South Station. And I get in the van, and the guy told me it will take only 5 minutes. It took me 35 minutes to get to South Station. Find out that the driver is from Texas. He has no clue about how to get to South Station. He was following the navigator. Somehow it took us 35 minutes. Then he took me into the bus terminal instead. I asked him if he can walk me in, help me to walk in. I'm a blind person. And the guy said, I can't leave the van here. And someone heard him that worked at the station. He said, no, you can leave it here. Walk him in. I walked in and I found out that I'm in the wrong terminal. The lady told us that we should go back into the commuter rail terminal. The guy took me back, get in the van. He drove me somewhere, and then we end up at South Station where there's stairs. He had no knowledge how to deal with a blind person. He walked up the stairs. He tried to hold my hand and pull me up. And I said, doesn't work that way. You got to come down and walk together. We walked in and find myself in the food section. I asked him if he can drop me off at the information desk. He said, no, I have to go. He turned around, left me just like that. It took me a while to find my way, asking people to direct me. But it seems to me that these people has no training whatsoever how to deal with a disabled person. He had no knowledge to what entrance to get people into South Station. So sound like they need more training. You guys need to be on top of this. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rashad. So I think we have time for one more person. I know we're coming up to our end time, or we're at time now, but we have a couple more comments. So if folks are okay, I'm going to go ahead and have us hear from one more person, and then I'll turn it over to Laura and Eric if you have any closing comments before we end tonight's listening session. Elizabeth Ann Johnson.
Audio now unmuted.
Hi, good job, RTAG. Very interesting. Mine is going to be very, very short. Rachel did not say how someone can get in contact with her. That's all I have to say. Thank you for this session, RTAG.
Okay, Rachel, if you want to go ahead and put that in the chat. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and say, Laura, do you have any final words before we close tonight's session out?
Yeah, again, just wanted to thank everybody for their time and feedback tonight. We've been, here listening and taking notes and thinking about how this is going to influence updated policies and oversight going forward. I do want to ask Eric if he has anything he would like to share. I believe he does.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Thanks, Jessica, and everybody for sharing your stories. Obviously, I'm not pleased that this is the reputation that you've come away with from how we at the MBTA meet your needs. And we have a lot of notes coming from the comments that have come into the MBTA, specifically to system-wide accessibility and this listening session tonight. So thank you for sharing that. We clearly have work to do when we are bringing in contract vendors to provide this alternative service, and we're committed to continuing to work there. We feel like we have made a lot of great strides within the MBTA organization and how our employees work with all of you and work to provide the level of service that we are proud of when we can do it well. And we are committed to continuing to work to bring in our contractors to the same level of respect, of empathy, of service that is what we've come to expect of our own staff internal to the MBTA. So thank you for this feedback. It gives us very actionable examples and areas to work on to make sure that our contractors can meet those needs.
Thank you, Eric. Is my audio working?
Yes, it is, Jessica.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, but I didn't see the little green thing go up and down on my microphone, and I got very nervous again. Thank you very much, Eric, and thank you, Laura, and everyone from the T who came to listen. But most of all, thank you to everyone who came out today to share your stories and your feedback. It does sound like there's some work to do, but I'm confident that that working together we'll be able to sort this. They'll be able to sort this stuff out. So thank you everyone for coming and sharing your stories and providing that feedback for the T. Just some final announcements for RTAG. RTAG's next general membership meeting will be in October. I'm blanking right now. Jen, can you jump in with the date for me? Because I know you got it memorized.
Absolutely.
The 24th, but I'm afraid that's wrong because
nope.
We changed
October 27th.
27th. It was close. October 27th from 5:30 to 7:30. So we hope to see you there. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and end tonight's meeting. But thank you so much to everyone who came out to share your stories and provide feedback.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.